हरि गोविंद
ओम नमो नारायण ओम नमो नारायण
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 केशव हरि केशव हरि केशव हरि केशव
केशव हरि केशव हरि केशव हरि केशव
माधव हरि माधव हरि माधव हरि माधव
माधव हरि माधव हरि माधव हरि माधव
गोविंद हरि गोविंद हरि गोविंद हरि गोविंद
गोविंद हरि गोविंद हरि गोविंद हरि गोविंद
ओम नमो नारायण ओम नमो नारायण
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 ओम नमो नारायण
ओम नमो नारायण
ओम नमो नारायण
ओम नमो नारायण
ओम नमो नारायण
ओम नमो नारायण
ये श्री कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय, सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी
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 वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी
श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी
श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी
श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी गोविंद गिरिधारी गोविंद गिरिधारी जय वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय।
Hari Om everyone. Can you all hear me and see me clearly? Okay, good. Last 2 weeks we did not have the Bhagavat Satsanga. So we will restart it and we'll go through the same course. First we will chant Lalita Sahasranama and then we will move into Bhagavatam in the later part. Hope and pray that all of you are doing well, enjoying and basking in the beautiful Dallas, Texan summer. Right time to make papads, I believe. One day should be sufficient. It might as well be roasted in the sun before you get it. And that's how beautiful the summer is. And if you're traveling, stay safe, travel safe, be cautious. We will begin with the invocation. Please join me with the invocation. सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। Let us begin with Lalita Sahasranama. Please join me. ॐ ऐं ह्रीं श्रीं सिन्दूरारुणविग्रहां त्रिनयनां माणिक्यमौलिस्फुरत् तारानायकशेखरां स्मितमुखीमापीनवक्षोरुहां पाणिभ्यां मलिपूर्णरत्नचषकं रक्तोत्पलं बिभ्रतीं सौम्यां रत्नघटस्थरक्तचरणां ध्यायेत् परामम्बिकाम् अरुणां करुणातरङ्गिताक्षीं धृतपाशाङ्कुशपुष्पबाणचापाम् अणिमादिभिरावृतां मयूखैः अहमित्येव विभावये भवानीं ध्यायेत् पद्मासनस्थां विकसितवदनां पद्मपत्रायताक्षीं हेमाभां पीतवस्त्रां करकलितलसद्धेमपद्मां वराङ्गीं सर्वालङ्कारयुक्तां सततमभयदां भक्तनम्रां भवानीं श्रीविद्यां शान्तमूर्तिं सकलसुरनुतां सर्वसम्पत्प्रदात्रीं सकुङ्कुमविलेपनामलिकचुम्बिकस्तूरिकां सपन्दहसि ते क्षणां सशरचापपाशाङ्कुशाम् अशेषजनमोहिनीमरुणमाल्यभूषाम्बरां जपाकुसुमभासुरां जपविधौ स्मरेदम्बिकाम्। ओम श्री माता श्री महाराज्ञी श्रीमत् सिंहासनेश्वरी चिदग्निकुंड संभूता देवकार्य समुद्यता उद्यद्भानुसहस्राभा चतुर्बाहु समन्विता रागस्वरूप पाषाढ्या क्रोधाकारांकुशोज्ज्वला मनोरूपेक्षु कोदंडा पंचतन्मात्र सायका निजारुण प्रभापूरा मज्जद ब्रह्मांड मंडला चंपकाशोक पुन्नाग सौगंधिकल सत्कचा कुरुविंदमनिश्रेणी कनत्कोटीरमंडिता अष्टमी चंद्र विभ्राज दलिकस्थल शोभिता मुखचंद्रकलंकाभा मृगनाभिविशेषका वदनस्मर मांगल्य ग्रहतोरणचिल्लिका वक्तलक्ष्मी परिवाह चलन्मीनाभलोचना नवचंपकपुष्पाभा नासादंड विराजिता ताराकांतितिरस्कारी नासाभरणभासुरा कदम्ब मंजरी क्लुप्त कर्णपूर मनोहरा ताटंकयुगलीभूता तपनोडुपमंडला पद्मरागशिलादर्श परिभाविकपोलभूः नवविद्रुम बिंबश्री न्यक्कारी रदनच्छदा शुद्ध विद्यांकुराकारा द्विजपंक्तिद्वयोज्ज्वला कर्पूरवीटिकामोदा समाकर्षिदिगंतरा निजसल्लाप माधुर्य विनिर्भत्सित कच्छपि मंदस्मित प्रभापूरा मज्जत्कामेश मानसा अनाकलित सादृश्य चिबुक श्री विराजिता कामेशबद्ध मांगल्य सूत्रशोभित कंदरा कनकांगद केयूरा कमनीय भुजान्विता रत्नग्रैवेय चिंता कलोल मुक्ता फलान्विता कामेश्वर प्रेम रत्न मणि प्रतिपनस्तनी नाभ्यालवाल रोमाली लता फलकुचद्वयी लक्ष रोमलताधार तासमुन्नेय मध्यमा स्तनभारद लन्मध्य पट्टबंधवलित्रया अरुणारुण कौस्तुंभ वस्त्रभास्वत्कटीतटी रत्नकिंकिणी कारम्या रशनादामभूषिता कामेशज्ञात सौभाग्य मार्दवोरुद्वयान्विता माणिक्यमुकुटाकारा जानुद्वय विराजिता इंद्रगोपपरीक्षिता स्मरत्तूर्णा भजंगिका गूढ़गुल्फा कूर्मपृष्ठा जयिष्णुप्रपदान्विता नखधीतिथ संचन्ना नमज्जनतमो गुणा पदद्वय प्रभाजाला पराकृतसरोरुहा सिंजानमणिमंजीरमण्डित श्रीपदाम्बुजा मरालीमन्दगमना महालावण्यशैवधी सर्वारुणानवद्यांगी सर्वाभरणभूषिता शिवकामेश्वराङ्कस्था शिवा स्वाधीनवल्लभा सुमेरुमध्यशृङ्गस्था श्रीमन्नगरनायिका चिन्तामणिगृहान्तस्था पञ्चब्रह्मासनस्थिता महापद्माटवीसंस्था कदम्बवनवासिनी सुधासागरमध्यस्था कामाक्षी कामदायिनी देवर्षिगणसङ्घाता स्तूयमानात्मवैभवा भण्डासुरवधोद्युक्ता शक्तिसेना समन्विता संपत्करी समारूढ़ा सिंधुरव्रजसेविता अश्वारूढ़ाधिष्ठिताश्वा कोटिकोटिभिरावृता चक्रराजरथारूढ़ा सर्वायुधपरिष्कृता गेयचक्ररथारूढ़ा मंत्रिणी परिसेविता किरिचक्ररथारूढ़ा दंडनाथा पुरस्कृता ज्वालामालिनिकाक्षिप्त बह्निप्राकारमध्यगा भण्डसैन्यवधोद्युक्ता शक्तिविक्रमहर्षिता नित्या पराक्रमाटोपा निरीक्षण समुत्सुका भण्डपुत्रवधोद्युक्ता बाला विक्रमनंदिता मंत्रिण्यंबा विरचिता विशंगवदतोषिता विशुक्रप्राहरणा वाराही वीर्यनंदिता कामेश्वर मुखालोक कल्पित श्री गणेश्वरा महागणेश निर्भिन्न विघ्नयंत्र प्रहर्षिता भंडा सुरेंद्र निर्मुक्ता शस्त्र प्रत्यस्तवर्षिणी करांगुलिनखोत्पन्ना नारायण दशाकृति महापाशुपदास्त्राग्नि निर्दग्धासुर सैनिका कामेश्वरास्त निर्दग्धा सभंडासुर शून्यका ब्रह्मोपेन्द्र महेन्द्रादि देव संस्तुत वैभवा हर नेत्राग्नि संदग्धा काम संजीवन औषधि श्रीमद्वाग्भव कूटैक स्वरूप मुखपंकजा कंठादक्कटि पर्यंत मध्यकूट स्वरूपिणी शक्तिकूटैक तापन्ना कट्यदोभागधारिणी मूलमंत्रात्मिका मूल कूटत्रयकलेवरा कुलामृतैक रसिका कुल संकेतपालिनी कुलांगना कुलांतस्था कौलिनी कुलयोगिनी अकुला समयांतस्था समय आचार तत्परा मूलाधारैक निलया ब्रह्मग्रंथि विभेदिनी मणिपूरांत रुदिता विष्णुग्रंथि विभेदिनी आज्ञाचक्रांतलास्था रुद्रग्रंथि विभेदिनी सहस्रारांबुजारूढ़ा सुधासाराभिवर्षिणी तडिल्लता समरुचि षट्चक्रोपरि संस्थिता महाशक्ति कुंडलिनी भिसदंतुतनीयसी भवानी भावनागम्या भवारण्यकुठारिका भद्रप्रिया भद्रमूर्तिर्भक्त सौभाग्यदायिनी भक्तिप्रिया भक्तिगम्या भक्तिवश्या भयापहा शांभवी शारदाराध्या शर्वाणी शर्मदायिनी शांकरी श्रीकरी साध्वी शरच्चंद्र निभानना शातोदरी शांतिमती निराधारा निरंजना निर्लेपा निर्मला नित्या निराकारा निराकुला निर्गुणा निष्कला शांता निष्कामा निरुपप्लवा नित्यमुक्ता निर्विकारा निष्प्रपंचा निराश्रया नित्यशुद्धा नित्यबुद्धा निरवध्या निरंतरा निष्कारणा निष्कलंका निरुपाधिर्निरीश्वरा नीरागारागमथनी निर्मदा मदनाशिनी निश्चिंता निरहंकारा निर्मोहा मोहनाशिनी निर्ममा ममताहंत्री निष्पापा पापनाशिनी निष्क्रोधा क्रोधशमनी निर्लोभा लोभनाशिनी निस्संशया संशयग्नि निर्भवा भवनाशिनी निर्विकल्पा निराबाधा निर्भेदा भेदनाशिनी निर्नाशा मृत्युमदिनी निष्क्रिया निष्परिग्रहा निस्तुलानि लचिकुरा निरपाया निरत्यया दुर्गमा दुर्लभा दुर्गमा दुर्गा दुःखहंत्री सुखप्रदा दुष्टदूरा दुराचारा शमनी दोषवर्जिता सर्वज्ञा सान्द्र करुणा समाना अधिकवर्जिता सर्वशक्तिमयी सर्वमंगला सद्गतिप्रदा सर्वेश्वरी सर्वमयी सर्वमंत्रस्वरूपिणी सर्वयंत्रात्मिका सर्वतंत्ररूपा मनोन्मनी माहेश्वरी महादेवी महालक्ष्मीर्मुडप्रिया महारूपा महापूज्या महापातकनाशिनी महामाया महासत्वा महाशक्तिर्महारतिः महाभोगा महेश्वर्या महावीर्या महाबला महाबुद्धिर्महासिद्धिर्महायोगेश्वरेश्वरी महातंत्रा महामंत्रा महायंत्रा महासना महायागक्रमाराध्या महाभैरवपूजिता महेश्वर महाकल्पा महातांडवसाक्षिणी महाकामेश महिषी महात्रिपुरसुंदरी चतुष्षष्टुपचाराढ्या चतुष्षष्टिकलामयी महाचतुष्षष्टिकोटि योगिनी गणसेविता मनोविद्या चंद्रविद्या चंद्रमंडलमध्यगा चारुरूपा चारुहासा चारुचंद्रकलाधरा चराचर जगन्नाथ चक्रराजनिकेतना पार्वती पद्मनयना पद्मराग समप्रभा पंचप्रेतासनासीना पंचब्रह्मस्वरूपिणी चिन्मयी परमानंदा विज्ञान घनरूपिणी ध्यानध्यातृध्येय रूपा धर्माधर्म विवर्जिता विश्वरूपा जागरिणी स्वपंती तेजसात्मिका सुप्ता प्राज्ञात्मिका तुर्या सर्वावस्था विवर्जिता सृष्टिकर्त्री ब्रह्मरूपा गोप्त्री गोविंदरूपिणी संहारिणी रुद्ररूपा तिरोधानकरीश्वरी सदाशिवानुग्रहदा पंचकृत्यपरायणा भानुमंडल मध्यस्था भैरवी भगमालिनी पद्मासना भगवती पद्मनाभ सहोदरी उन्मेष निमिषोत्पन्न विपन्न भुवनावली सहस्रशीर्ष वदना सहस्राक्षी सहस्रपात आब्रह्मकीट जननी वर्णाश्रम विधायिनी निजाज्ञारूप निगमा पुण्या पुण्यफलप्रदा श्रुति सीमंत सिंदूरी कृतपादाब्जधूलिका सकलागम संदोहा शुक्ति संपुट मुक्तिका पुरुषार्थप्रदा पूर्णा भोगिनी भुवनेश्वरी अंबिकानादि निधना हरिब्रह्मेंद्र सेविता नारायणी नादरूपा नामरूप विवर्जिता ह्रींकारी ह्रीमती हृदया हेयोपादेयवर्जिता राजराजार्चिता राज्ञी रम्या राजीवलोचना रंजनी रमणीरस्या रणत्किङ्किणीमेखला रमा राकेन्दुवदना रतिरूपा रतिप्रिया रक्षाकरी राक्षसग्नि रामा रमणलंपटा काम्या कामकलारूपा कदम्बकुसुमप्रिया कल्याणी जगती कंदा करुणा रससागरा कलावती कलालापा कांता कादंबरी प्रिया वरदा वामनयना वारुणी मदविह्वला विश्वाधिका वेदवेद्या विंध्याचल निवासिनी विधात्री वेद जननी विष्णुमाया विलासिनी क्षेत्रस्वरूपा क्षेत्रेशी क्षेत्र क्षेत्रज्ञपालिनी क्षयवृद्धि विनिर्मुक्ता क्षेत्रपाल समर्चिता विजया विमला वंद्या वंदारुजनवत्सला वाग्वादिनी वामकेशी वह्निमंडलवासिनी भक्तिमत्कल्पलतिका पशुपाश विमोचनी संहृता शेषपाषंड सदाचार प्रवर्तिका तापत्रयाग्नि संतप्ता समाह्लादन चंद्रिका तरुणी तापसाराध्या तनुमध्या तमोपहा चितिस्तत्पदलक्ष्यार्था चिदेकरस्वरूपिणी स्वात्मानंदल विभूता ब्रह्माध्यानंद संतति परा प्रत्यक्षिति रूपा पश्यन्ति परदेवता मध्यमा वैखरी रूपा भक्तमानसंसिका कामेश्वर प्राणनाडी कृतज्ञा कामपूजिता श्रृंगार रस संपूर्णा जया जालंधर स्थिता ओड्यानपीठ निलया बिंदुमंडलवासिनी रहो यागक्रम आराध्या रहस्तर्पणतर्पिता सद्य प्रसादिनी विश्वसाक्षिणी साक्षिवर्जिता षडंग देवता युक्ता षाड्गुण्य परिपूरिता नित्यक्लिन्ना निरुपमा निर्वाण सुखदायिनी नित्या षोडशिका रूपा श्रीकंठार्धशरीरिणी प्रभावती प्रभारूपा प्रसिद्धा परमेश्वरी मूल प्रकृतिरव्यक्ता व्यक्ता व्यक्तस्वरूपिणी व्यापिनी विविधाकारा विद्या विद्यास्वरूपिणी महाकामेश नयना कुमुदाह्लाद कौमुदी भक्तहार्दतमोभेदा भानुमद्भानुसंतति शिवदूती शिवाराध्या शिवमूर्तिर्शिवंकरी शिवप्रिया शिवपरा शिष्टेष्टा शिष्टपूजिता अप्रमेया स्वप्रकाशा मनोवाचामगोचरा चिच्छक्तिश्चेतना रूपा जडशक्तिर्जडात्मिका गायत्री व्याहृति संध्या द्विजवृंद निषेविता तत्वासना तत्वमयी पंचकोशांतरस्थिता निस्सीम महिमा नित्य यौवनामदशालिनी मदघूर्णित रक्ताक्षी मदपाटलगण्डभूः चन्दनद्रवदिग्धाङ्गी चाम्पेयकुसुमप्रिया कुशला कोमलाकारा कुरुकुल्लाकुलेश्वरी कुलकुण्डालया कौलमार्गतत्परसेविता कुमारगणनाथाम्बा तुष्टिपुष्टिर्मतिर्धृतिः शान्तिस्वस्तिमती कान्तिर्नन्दिनी विघ्ननाशिनी तेजोवती त्रिनयना लोलाक्षी कामरूपिणी मालिनी हंसिनी माता मलयाचलवासिनी सुमुखी नलिनी शुभ्रशोभना सुरनायिका कालकंठी कांतिमती क्षोभिणी सूक्ष्मरूपिणी वज्रेश्वरी वामदेवी वयोवस्था विवर्जिता सिद्धेश्वरी सिद्धविद्या सिद्धमाता यशस्विनी विशुद्धिचक्र निलया रक्तवर्णा त्रिलोचना खट्वांगादि प्रहरणा वदनैकसमन्विता पायसा अन्नप्रिया त्वक्स्था पशुलोकभयंकरी अमृतादि महाशक्ति समृता डाकिनीश्वरी अनाहताब्ज निलया श्यामा भावदनद्वया दंष्ट्रोज्ज्वला क्षमालादि धरार दुर्धिर संस्थिता कालरात्र्यादि शक्तियोग्या वृता स्निग्धौदन प्रिया महावीरेन्द्र वरदा राकिन्यंबा स्वरूपिणी मणिपूराब्ज निलया वदनत्रय संयुता वज्रादिका युधोपेता डामर्यादिभिरावृता रक्तवर्णा मांसनिष्ठा गुडान्न प्रीतमानसा समस्त भक्त सुखदा लाकिन्यंबा स्वरूपिणी स्वाधिष्ठानां भुजगता चतुर्वक्त्र मनोहरा शूलाद्यायुध संपन्ना पीतवर्णातिगर्विता मेदो निष्ठा मधुप्रीता बंधिन्यादि समन्विता दध्यन्नासक्त हृदया काकिनी रूपधारिणी मूलाधारां भुजारूढ़ा पंचवक्त्रास्य संसिता अंकुशादि प्रहरणा वरदादिनिषेविता मुद्गौदनासक्त चित्ता साकिन्यंबा स्वरूपिणी आज्ञाचक्राब्ज निलया शुक्लवर्णाषडानना मज्जा संस्था हंसवती मुख्य शक्ति समन्विता हरिद्रानैक रसिका हाकिनी रूपधारिणी सहस्रदल पद्मस्था सर्ववर्णोपशोभिता सर्वायुधधरा शुक्ल संस्थिता सर्वतोमुखी सर्वौदन प्रीतचित्ता याकिन्यंबा स्वरूपिणी स्वाहा स्वधा मतिर्मेधा श्रुतिस्मृतिरनुत्तमा पुण्यकीर्ति पुण्यलभ्या पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तना पुलोमजार्चिता बंधमोचनी बंधुरालका विमर्शरूपिणी विद्या वेद जगत्प्रसूः सर्वव्याधि प्रशमनी सर्वमृत्युनिवारिणी अग्रगण्या चिन्त्यरूपा कलिकल्मषनाशिनी कात्यायनी कालहंत्री कमलाक्षि सेविता तांबूलपूरितमुखी दाडिमी कुसुमप्रभा मृगाक्षी मोहिनी मुख्या मृडा निमित्ररूपिणी नित्यतृप्ता भक्तनिधिर्नियंत्री निखिलेश्वरी मैत्र्यादिवासनालभ्या महाप्रलय साक्षिणी पराशक्ति परानिष्ठा प्रज्ञान घनरूपिणी माध्वी पानालसामत्ता मातृकावरण रूपिणी महाकैलास निलया मृणाल मृददौर्लता महनीया दयामूर्तिर्महासाम्राज्यशालिनी आत्मविद्या महाविद्या श्रीविद्या कामसेविता श्रीषोडशाक्षरी विद्या त्रिकूटा कामकोटिका कटाक्षकिंकरी भूता कमला कोटिसेविता शिरस्थिता चंद्रनिभा भालस्तेन्द्रधनुप्रभा हृदयस्था रविप्रख्या त्रिकोणांतरदीपिका दाक्षायनी दैत्यहंत्री दक्षयज्ञविनाशिनी दरांदोलित दीर्घाक्षी दरहासोज्ज्वलन्मुखी गुरुमूर्तिर्गुणनिधिर्गोमाता गुहजन्मभूः देवेशी दंडनीतिस्था दहराकाशरूपिणी प्रतिपन्मुख्य राकांति तिथिमंडलपूजिता कलात्मिका कलानाथा काव्यालाप विनोदिनी सचामररमावाणी सव्यदक्षिणसेविता आदिशक्तिरमेयात्मा परमा पावनाकृतिः अनेक कोटि ब्रह्मांड जननी दिव्य विग्रह क्लींकारी केवला गुह्या कैवल्यपदायिनी त्रिपुरा जगद्वंद्या त्रिमूर्तिस्थितशेश्वरी त्रक्षरी दिव्यगंधाढ्या सिंधूरतिलकांचिता उमा शैलेन्द्रतरया गौरी गंधर्वसेविता विश्वगर्भा स्वर्णगर्भा वरदा वागधीश्वरी ध्यानगम्या परिच्छेद्या ज्ञानदा ज्ञानविग्रह सर्ववेदांत संवेद्या सत्यानंद स्वरूपिणी लोपामुद्रार्चिता लीला क्लुप्त ब्रह्मांडमंडला अदृश्यादृश्य रहिता विज्ञात्री वेद्यवर्जिता योगिनी योगदा योग्या योगानंदा युगंधरा इच्छा शक्ति ज्ञान शक्ति क्रिया शक्ति स्वरूपिणी सर्वाधारा सुप्रतिष्ठा सदसद्रूपधारिणी अष्टमूर्तिरजा जैत्री लोकयात्रा विधायिनी एकाकिनी भूमरूपा निर्द्वैता द्वैतवर्जिता अन्नदा वसुधा वृद्धा ब्रह्मात्मैक्य स्वरूपिणी बृहति ब्राह्मणी ब्राह्मी ब्रह्मानंद बलिप्रिया भाषा रूपा बृहत्सेना भावा भाव विवर्जिता सुखाराध्या शुभकरी शोभना सुलभा गति राजराजेश्वरी राज्यदायिनी राज्यवल्लभा राजत्कृपा राजपीठा निवेशित निजाश्रिता राज्यलक्ष्मी कोशनाथा चतुरंगबलेश्वरी साम्राज्यदायिनी सत्यसंधा सागर मेखला दीक्षिता दैत्य शमनी सर्वलोकवशंकरी सर्वार्थदात्री सावित्री सच्चिदानंद रूपिणी देशकाला परिच्छिन्ना सर्वगा सर्वमोहिनी सरस्वती शास्त्रमयी गुहांबा गुह्यरूपिणी सर्वोपाधि में निर्मुक्ता सदाशिवपतिव्रता संप्रदायेश्वरी साध्वी गुरुमंडल रूपिणी कुलोत्तीर्णा भग आराध्या माया मधुमतीमही गणाम्बा गुह्यकाराध्या कोमलांगी गुरुप्रिया स्वतंत्रा सर्वतंत्रेशी दक्षिणामूर्तिरूपिणी सनकादिसमाराध्या शिवज्ञानप्रदायिनी चित्कलानंदकलिका प्रेमरूपा प्रियंकरा नामपारायण प्रीता नंदी विद्या नटेश्वरी मिथ्या जगदधिष्ठाना मुक्ता मुक्तिरूपिणी लास्य प्रिया लयकरी लज्जारंबादिवंदिता भवदापसुदा वृष्टि पापारण्यदवानला दौर्भाग्यतूल वातूला जराध्वांतर विप्रभा भाग्याब्धिचंद्रिका भक्त चित्त केकी घना घना रोग पर्वत दंबोलिर्मृत्युदारु कुठारिका महेश्वरी महाकाली महाग्रासा महाशना अपर्णा चंडिका चंडमुंडा निषूदिनी क्षराक्षरात्मिका सर्वलोकेशी विश्वधारिणी त्रिवर्गदा त्रिसुभगा त्र्यंबका त्रिगुणात्मिका स्वर्गापवर्गदा शुद्धा जपा पुष्पनिभाकृति ओजोवती द्युतिधरा यज्ञरूपा प्रियव्रता दुराराध्या दुरादर्शा पाटली कुसुमप्रिया महती मेरुनिलया मंदार कुसुमप्रिया वीराराध्या विराट रूपा विरजा विश्वतोमुखी प्रत्यग रूपा पराकाशा प्राणदा प्राणरूपिणी मार्तांड भैरवाराध्या मंत्रिणी न्यस्तराज्यधूः त्रिपुरेशी जयत्सेना निस्त्रैगुण्या परापरा सत्यज्ञानानंद रूपा सामरस्य परायणा कवर्धनी कलामाला कामधुक्कामरूपिणी कलानिधे काव्यकला रसज्ञा रससेवदी पुष्टा पुरातना पूज्या पुष्करा पुष्करेक्षणा परंज्योति परंधाम परमाणु परात्परा पाशहस्ता पाशहंत्री परमंत्र विभेदिनी मूर्ता मूर्ता नित्यतृप्ता मुनिमानसंसिका सत्यव्रता सत्यरूपा सर्वांतर्यामिनी सती ब्रह्माणी ब्रह्मजननी बहुरूपा बुधार्चिता प्रसवित्री प्रचंडाज्ञा प्रतिष्ठा प्रकटाकृति प्राणेश्वरी प्राणदात्री पंचाशत्पीठरूपिणी विशृंखला विविक्तस्था वीरमाता वियत्प्रसूः मुकुंदा मुक्तिनिलया मूलविग्रहरूपिणी भावज्ञा भवरोगग्नि भवचक्रप्रवर्तिनी छंदसारा शास्त्रसारा मंत्रसारा तलोदरी उदार कीर्तिरुद्दाम वैभव वर्णरूपिणी जन्म मृत्युजरातप्ता जन विश्रांतिदायिनी सर्वोपनिषदुद्घोष्टा शांति अतीता कलात्मिका गंभीरागनान्तस्था गर्विता गानलोलुपा कल्पनारहिता काष्ठा कांता कांतार्ध विग्रहा कार्य कारण निर्मुक्ता कामकेली तरंगिता कनत कनकताटंका लीला विग्रहधारिणी अजाक्षय विनिर्मुक्ता मुग्धा क्षिप्रप्रसादिनी अंतर्मुख समाराध्या बहिर्मुख सुदुर्लभा त्रयीत्रिवर्ग निलया त्रिस्त्रा त्रिपुरमालिनी निरामया निरालंबा स्वात्मा रामा सुधास्तुति संसार पंक निर्मग्न समुद्धरण पंडिता यज्ञप्रिया यज्ञकर्त्री यजमान स्वरूपिणी धर्माधारा धनाध्यक्ष धनधान्य विवर्धिनी विप्रप्रिया विप्ररूपा विश्वभ्रमणकारिणी विश्वग्रासा विद्रुमाभा वैष्णवी विष्णुरूपिणी अयो निर्यो निलया कूटस्थाकुलरूपिणी वीरगोष्ठी प्रिया वीरा निष्कर्म्यानादरूपिणी विज्ञानकलनाकल्या विदग्धा बैन्दवासना तत्वाधिका तत्वमयी तत्वमर्थस्वरूपिणी सामगान प्रिया सौम्या सदाशिवकुटुम्बिनी सव्यापसव्य मार्गस्था सर्वापद्विनिवारिणी स्वस्था स्वभाव मधुरा धीरा धीर समर्चिता चैतन्यार्घ्य समाराध्या चैतन्य कुसुम प्रिया सदोदिता सदातुष्टा तरुणादित्य पाटला दक्षिणा दक्षिणाराध्या दरस्मेर मुखाम्बुजा कौलिनी केवलानर्घ्या कैवल्यपददायिनी स्तोत्र प्रिया सुतिमती श्रुति संस्कृत वैभवा मनस्विनी मानवती महेशी मंगलाकृति विश्वमाता जगद्धात्री विशालाक्षी विरागिनी प्रगल्भा परमोदारा परामोदा मनोमयी व्योमकेशी विमानस्था वज्रिणी वामकेश्वरी पंचयज्ञ प्रिया पंचप्रेत पंचाधिशायिनी पंचमी पंचभूतेशी पंचसंख्योपचारिणी शाश्वती शाश्वतैश्वर्या शर्मदा शंभुमोहिनी धरा धरसुता धन्या धर्मिणी धर्मवर्धिनी लोकातीता गुणातीता सर्वातीता शमात्मिका बंधुक कुसुम प्रख्या बाला लीला विनोदिनी सुमंगली सुकरी सुवेशाढ्या सुवासिनी सुवासिन्यर्चन प्रीता शोभना शुद्धमानसा बिंदुतर्पण संतुष्टा पूर्वजा त्रिपुरांबिका दशमुद्रा समाराध्या त्रिपुरा श्रीवशंकरी ज्ञानमुद्रा ज्ञानगम्या ज्ञानज्ञेय स्वरूपिणी योनिमुद्रा त्रिखंडेशी त्रिगुणांबा त्रिकोणगा अनघाद्भुत चारित्र्य वांछितार्थप्रदायिनी अभ्यासादिश ज्ञाता षडध्वातीतरूपिणी अव्याज करुणामूर्तिरज्ञान अद्वांत दीपिका आबालगोपविदिता सर्वानुल्यंघशासना श्रीचक्रराज निलया श्रीमत् त्रिपुर सुंदरी श्री शिवा शिवशक्त्यैक्य रूपिणी ललितांबिका एवं श्रीललिता देव्या नाम्नां सहस्रकं जगुः इति श्रीब्रह्माण्डपुराणे उत्तरखण्डे श्रीहयग्रीवागस्त्य संवादे श्रीललिता सहस्रनाम स्तोत्रकथनं सम्पूर्णम्। Give me about a minute or two. I'll just be back. Hope you all can hear me clearly. Good. Let us begin with the invocation of Bhagavatam. सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुः तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। जन्माद्यस्य तोऽन्वयादितरतः चार्थेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयः यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। धर्मः प्रोज्झितकैतवोऽत्र परमः निर्मत्सराणां सतां वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनं। श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषुभिस्तत्क्षणात्। निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः। मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः। We are in the Tritiya Skanda, third canto, Ekatrimshodhyayah, 31st chapter. This is one of the most beautiful segments. As much as Bhagavan Shri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita literally copies and pastes from Kathopanishad, the concepts from this third canto, the dialogue between Kapila Muni Maharaj to his mother Devahuti, the concepts have been verbatim shifted from here into the Bhagavad Gita, mostly in a capsule format, but the concepts you find them here elaborately. In the last chapter, we looked into what is the condition of a person that who is attached to this mortal coil, and how do we get bound in this particular samsara is very elaborately explained. In the next chapter, how is a jiva born? How does the jiva get conceived? And from the mother's womb, how does he get born? And in the womb, what is the kind of experience that the jiva goes through, the individual goes through? And what is the prayer of that individual unto that Bhagavan Sri Hari? That is explained, and then a commentary on that by Kapila Dev Maharaj to his mother as to how we get entrapped in this worldliness, why we get entrapped in this worldliness, and where should our focus be at all. So, a general structure of this chapter is given in there. So, let us begin the 31st chapter. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha. Bhagavan Kapila Mahamuni is verily the avatara of that Shri Mahavishnu. That Shri Mahavishnu, when requested, he had promised that he would be born as their child. In fact, to Kardama Rishi, Bhagavan himself had said, Beta, let me have this opportunity to be born as your child. That I will be born after this amount of tapas is done. So go focus on that tapas, then get married, then both of you together do the tapas, continue the tapas, and then I will be born on this particular aspect. So Bhagavan Swayam is addressing his own mother, Devahuti, and then he says, Karmana Daivene Trena Janturdehopapattaye Striyah Pravishta Udaram Pumso Retah Kanashrayaha. The seed from the father enters into the mother's womb, and as it enters and ovulates, there is the scope and possibility of an individual to be born arises. Now what happens? In the night, the ovulation happens. The first night, the ovulation happens. By the fifth night, it takes the form of a Budbuddha Swarupa. Budbuddha Swarupa is like a bubble, small, tiny bubble. Now, before I go into this, step into this whole detail, this knowledge was given to Devahuti in the Treta, in the Satya Yuga. This whole thing was penned down by Bhagavan Vedavyasa about 5,100 and some years ago. So this knowledge of what happens in the womb of the mother is something spectacular which gets mentioned way before sonograms, microscopes, and test tubes were invented. So due credit to the amazing aspects of science, physiology, anatomy, bhugola, khagola, rasayana, ganita, name what you may, you will find an amazing reference to all of it. That way before the other civilizations or religions claim that the creation was made, the knowledge of this wisdom with such sincerity has been passed along through the generations. Way back at that time when Vedavyasji was penning this down in the format of 18 Puranas and 18 Upapuranas, the claim from the other, especially the Abrahamic, is that the creation started around 4,400 years ago. Much beyond that, much before that, Bhagavan Vedavyasji gives this knowledge and wisdom. So when evaluating the Hindu scriptures, when evaluating our own Shastra Jnana, know what the Shastra has and what kind of depth that it encourages before just, generalizing it and smashing it across, saying, oh, it is an age old thing, it doesn't need to be practiced or understood even. So getting back into this topic, on the 10th day, where the um, where the growth pattern of the mamsapinda, it is still a mamsapinda, and it gets hardened like a size of a berry, not the Chinese berry which is this size. I'm talking of the Indian berries जिसे हम बेर बोलते हैं ना. In Telugu I know it is called rekkai, regi pandu. So in that size, hardened as much. So by the 10th day it becomes that size. Then in about a month's time it takes to the size and shape of a egg, anda. Then about 2 months there is the head, 2 tiny hand formations, and still a tail like form you can find in the 2 months time. Then by the 3rd month there is the legs, the hands, nakha roma asthi charma, and Stri Purusha Chinha starts to evolve in at around the 3rd month. Now at the end of the 3rd month, the first trimester, it is at that time that the jiva enters into the body. Therefore we have one particular ritual that we celebrate the status of the mother who has now the womb developing rapidly in her womb. The 3rd month is when, up until the 3rd month, it is a masapinda, a muscular tissue that is growing in the womb. It is in the 3rd month, the end of the 3rd month, that is when through the Shirsha Marga, from the head, from here, this portion, that the jiva enters into the body. Now when the child is born, you will find that, at least in our traditions, in our Hindu traditions, we will find that there is a special care given to this portion, and there is oil massage done, very delicate portion here into the child. It is right at that is called the Brahma Granthi. Through that Brahma Granthi, the jiva enters in. In the Aitri Upanishad, it is very clearly mentioned that the jiva is instructed by that Ishvara that the rest of the gateways have already been taken up, they have already been used, uchishtamiti, they have already been used, they have already been, the sanctity is not there. You are the jiva that is going to reside in this body, go through the Rajamarga, and the Rajamarga is through the Brahma Granthi. And because the jiva enters into the womb, into that masapinda, enlivening that masapinda, the samskara that is celebrated is called Simanta. Simanta, the one who has entered into the context of that particular physical form, which now has a certain shape to it, certain limbs have grown, sprouted. So after that Simanta, the 4th month, the Sapta Dhatu in Ayurveda, there are 7 different layers in which this body develops, starting from the skin all the way to the majja. Majja is the bone marrow. So 7 different dhatus start developing into the form. In the 5th month is when the child starts feeling hunger and thirst in the womb. And whatever is the food that is eaten by the mother, it starts going into that particular developing womb. By the 6th month, you will find that this fellow growing up, this individual starts to move about, starts playing soccer inside, football inside. You will start feeling the little punches inside. So there's a lot of movement that happens that starts in the 6th month. By the 7th month, that particular Jiva starts recognizing the environment around as to where that fellow is growing. Meaning, the sensation of heat and cold, the feeling of, in the 7th shloka it said, all that which is eaten by the mother, whether it is spicy, hot, cold, bitter, all these starts impacting the sharira of that particular jiva. Then starts recognizing that, oh, this place is not a very grand place to live in or grow up. Why am I in this kind of a environment which is not that conducive? He starts feeling, that jiva starts feeling suffocated in that particular environment, because the sthulata of that Vishtapurita environment, he recognizes it, and that jiva starts to cry out loud and offers a prayer to that Bhagavan. That stuti of the jiva jantu is given from the 12th shloka onwards. Jantuhu uvacha. Now what does this jantu say? Bhagavan, for all the karma that was done in the past, you have provided, you have assigned me this particular birth in this mother's womb. In fact, I am invoking you as Bhagavan, who is Sarvantaryami. Where is it that you do not exist? In fact, also, my true nature is nothing but that supreme, all-pervading, conscious, existential principle alone. But then, when I enter into this body, there is that Chidabhasa, and with that Chidabhasa, I get identified with this body, with this system of body, mind, and intellect. Having been identified with it, with the Ahankara, there is this Avarana that comes over, and we get completely bound into this body, mind, and intellect. This is the stuti of the jiva in the garbha. Meaning each one of us were really wise by the 7th or 8th month. 7th, 8th month, we had done such an amazing prayer to Bhagavan. But then, as we get out with the Maya Shakti, as we get out of this womb, this smriti gets lost, and then we are identified with this body, mind, and intellect. Then the gunas, and through the gunas, the avidya, kama, karma, it takes its impact or effect. that we are bound thoroughly to the worldliness. Hey Bhagavan, enough of this me traveling from one womb to the other. This is what even Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji says in Bhaja Govindam, right? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam. To be born in this kind of a jatara, there is jataragni, there is lot of this dravya, there is mala, mutra, rudira. All of this, it's quite a intangible suffering that me as a jiva that has to go through all of this. Hey Bhagavan, this opportunity that which you are giving me, bless me that I do not forget this knowledge. Bless me that the purpose of this very life that I am being born into is not losing its course, but focused upon gaining that absolute, which is gaining my own true nature. Provide me that opportunity. Thus, having said, in his Vyakulata, in his desperate moment where he is covered with all the fluids in the uterus, he prays that he not be succumbing to the samsara dukkha. Samsara dukkha, they are not two different. Samsara and its dukkha. Being in samsara itself is dukkha. So from here on, Kapila Maharaj, he starts evam कृतमतिर गर्भे दशमास्या स्तुवन् ऋषिः सद्य क्षिपयत्यवाचीनं प्रसूत्यै सूतिमारुतः. सूतिमारुतः, the apana vayu which helps in the prasuti, the delivery of the child, now pushes that child downward. And as the prasuti vayu or suti vayu takes over, the child gets reversed, hangs upside down. That also is mentioned. Hangs upside down and painfully comes out of that womb, shiraha aturaha. Shiraha aturaha, with the head coming out first. And as the child comes out, at that point, you can call it as the environmental pressure changing, the child momentarily stops breathing. And when the breathing stops, the child forgets, that jiva forgets all the smriti of all the earlier lives which he had a few months ago. And the prayers and the promise that he had made, that jiva forgets it. As soon as the shvasagati, stambana happens, it stops. And that is when the doctors hold the child upside down and smack in the back to shake up, and the child starts breathing. Now, as soon as the first breathing happens and starts crying, this is where I would say, rote hue aate hain sab. No, but the choice that we have to make is haste hue jo, whether we laugh and make others laugh, meaning joyously, to lead a life, that is a choice that we have to make. So yes, our birthright, meaning right since the birth, that which we have been effortlessly doing is crying. But to smile, laugh, giggle, and to give that smile, laugh, giggle to others, that is a purushartha that one has to perform. Parachandam na vidusha pushyamano janeena saha anabhipreta mapannaha pratyakhyatumanishvaraha. 25th shloka. Now with this forgetfulness, being born into this world crying, as the child is raised, palana poshana happens, the individual starts getting identified with this body, and it's a pretty sad state because that child literally cannot do anything other than cry out for help. And thanks to the mothers, every mother out there, when we celebrate Mother's Day, for one reason, for one and only one reason, that when we were born, it is only mother that could understand, decipher and decode why is the child crying. I've seen many fathers, the moment the child cries, they hand that child over to the mother and say, I don't know, it's been crying, can you take care? The mother knows how to decode that. Whether it is a bug bite, whether it is a mosquito bite, whether it is hunger, whether it is indigestion, whether it is uh, a mammoth effort from the child's viewpoint to burp, anything that creates discomfort, nisahayata, that that fellow is lying down, and in that lying posture, all that he can do is send a wireless message, and it can be understood, deciphered, decoded by only one person, and that is the mother. Then enters into Kaumara Avastha, and then becomes a teenager. And in that particular Kaumara Avastha, that is when this fellow understands that I find a sense of gratification when my desire is fulfilled. So therefore, the fellow starts demanding. And when that demand is not met with, there is the Ajnana and Ajnana Vashat Krodha. And there is a lot of Abhimana towards the body that is developed in. Now when the Abhimana is developing stronger, Krodha is getting higher, and the Kama is getting its hold onto this Jivatva, the Jiva, from that moment onwards, from the Kaumara Avastha to the Vruddhapya, constantly is tied down in I-ness and minus. I and mine. Constantly is being slapped around with this I-ness and minus, but doesn't understand that this particular thing is because of my own holding, and nothing else is the reason for me feeling so bound, so stifling or suffocating. The cause is only my attachment to whatever I am holding. Once I was in a town, I think it was Kadri, either Kadri or Kadapa. I was still a child at that time. So I think it was Kadri because there is a Nrsimha temple there. So we would sleep as children on the terrace. So early evening we had our dinner done. So we were all on the terrace. The terrace sleeping is very simple sleeping. You put the mat, the grass mat, and then a thin layer. Maybe if you are big enough, maybe be blessed with a pillow, and of course something to cover yourself with. As we got there, we were engaged in something that we were playing. The neighboring terrace, say about 3 or 4 terraces across, there was this huge bunch of monkeys that had gathered suddenly, and they were making amazing distress noise. So then it was explained, it is like etched in my memory. It was explained, and we jumped few terrace, like they're all like connected. So we jumped through few terrace to have a closer look. I mean, if the monkeys were to attack us or chase us, we had nowhere else to run. So when we got closer glimpse, one of the monkey was in trouble, and that's why that many monkeys had gathered around it, trying to get that monkey out of the trouble. What had happened was, there was a kind of an aperture where a glass bottle, which was firmly grounded, tied down to the floor, it had a thin neck, and in that glass jar there were some nuts. So this monkey had put its hand in through that jar, gathered, collected, gripped a fistful, and now it is trying to pull its hand. When it is trying to pull its hand, the hand is now fistful. It does not come out of it, and it restricts the hand to be coming out. Now the best deal to do there is to drop what you are holding, and you can set yourself free. That is the key, right? That which you are holding on to, drop it, move along. But then we don't drop it. I mean, the monkey doesn't drop it. The fellow who had set this trap comes, chases away the other monkeys, and this monkey is trapped. It is caught, and then it goes through the training, very inhuman training, where then in the street artists, it gets sold to, and it starts acting on the streets. We have seen those street acts. So the comparison here is, each one of us feels suffocated wherever we are, and that suffocation we may want to blame, we may want to point fingers at the society, at the laws, at the constitution, at husband, wife, children, in-laws, whatever we may point it at. The fact of the matter still remains that there's only one reason that we can point or blame it at, and that happens to be I, me, myself. How so? Because I am holding. That day when I am ready to one by one give up the hold, slowly I can pull out of this entrapment that which I constantly blame everyone around for. Even that guru who comes in our life to teach so that we can learn how to drop is also often blamed, and sometimes brutally brutalized. Why? Because I want it, I don't want to drop it, and now I have this innate need to have best of the both worlds. How do I pull my hand out while I can still keep holding on to it and pull the things that which I like or desire? Unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way. So we get entrapped and constantly sucked deeper and deeper into, or by our own weight of attachments. The deeper the attachments to everything and everyone that is around, the deeper we get sucked into it. Now, at the same time, can I drop everything and run away? No. All that I have to do is drop the attachment fulfill the responsibility that which is demanded by the situation of whatever I am responsible for. Why is that? Is it because I have to help others? No, the first need is to help myself. I am in that intersection of life to face whatever I am facing. It is because of the pressure of my own vasanas on myself. I could not have avoided it. I could not have ran away from it. I could not have skipped or hid myself. It has to be faced. Prarabdham pushyati vapuhu. This vasana comes down as prarabdha, and that prarabdha cannot be avoided. Now, don't jump to the conclusion that it is all fatalistic, nothing is in my hand. Your hands are still in your hand. That is why in Rudram also we chant, Ayam me hasto bhagavan, ayam me bhagavataraha, ayam me vishwabhe eshajo yagam shivabhimarshanaha. Bhagavan, may these hands be my source and resource as a medicine out of this samsara. You are worshipped, O Bhagavan Shiva, as the first primordial form of a doctor, Bheshaja. You are the doctor. May you bless my hands to be the blessings, be the doctor, which can put that Purushartha in the most selfless order to be able to release myself from these layers of vasanas. When I say release, it is detaching oneself with our own attachments and yet be able to fulfill those responsibilities. But if not doing so, what happens? The more and more we keep indulging, the more and more we get sucked into the vasana of being this body, mind and intellect. Whether you are a Stree, whether you are Purusha, the identity with the body's gender becomes my gender, and the desire, kama, is to desire for the other gender. So here Kapila Mahamuni says something very, very unique, which I don't find anywhere else. He says in the 41st shloka, Ya manyate patim mohan manmaya mrishabhayati mrishabhayatim stritvam stri sangatah praptaha. Now, in this particular life, supposing you are a man and you are attached to the woman, and that desire to be with the woman is so strong that even while dying you are thinking of that particular attachment and that sensual pleasure and its fulfillment, that in the next life you are born as a Stree. Those who are Stree in this life, therefore, would have been the men in the last life. So when we make this statement that, the men don't understand or women don't understand, one lifetime. This lifetime, what you think you are not being understood, next lifetime you will be the one that will be facing or contributing from the other gender aspect. And this is very funny way to look at it. That all that you think there is inequality, wait for one life. It will get with interest given back when you are on the opposite side of the fence. Now, continuing further, he says that if the individual has to grow out of this, then I'm going about 10 shlokas prior. What should be the Purusha Prayatna, the Purushartha that has to be put in? What direction should it be in? Satyam Shaucham Daya Maunam Buddhi Shrir Hrih Yasha Kshama Shamodama Bhagascheti Yat Sangadyadi Sankshayam. We go back to the basics. What is the basic adhikara lakshana that student should have? It's called sadhana chatushtaya. What is sadhana chatushtaya? Viveka, vairagya, shama, dama, uparama, titiksha, shraddha, samadhanam, and mumukshutvam. That one has to inculcate, that one has to promote into oneself. That is where Purusha Prayatna should come into picture. Purushartha should come into picture. But instead, what do? We spend 90%, I shouldn't say 90%, at least 60% of our time in strengthening the identity with this particular body to such a gripping level that other than satiating at the physical level, sometimes detrimental in such a way that which I am indulging in might be the very cause of my own stifling conditions. And yet I am kind of addicted, like alcoholic or a drug addict gets addicted to whatever their vices are. We are also addicted to these indulgences, and not realizing, or even though we know that these are detrimental, we dive with the feet first, dive deep in, and keep encouraging this attachment to strengthen, and that stays as weighing weight on us. It keeps pulling us down into this samsara deeper and deeper and deeper. So therefore, in the 42nd and 43rd shloka, Bhagavan says, Tamatmano vijaniyat patya patya guhatmakam daivopasaditam mrityum mrugayor gayanam yatha. Says, this particular jiva, this fellow is like a pakshi, that knowing, or pakshi or mruga, knowing that it is an entrapped environment. There is this story which Gurudev used to say quite a bit, that on a beautiful peepal tree there used to be a colony of parrots. So the parrots, the wisest of the parrot, the oldest of the parrot, the most experienced one, their job was to train the young ones, to sit them down every Sunday. I'm making it like Balavihar. Every Sunday to sit them down, explain to them the ways of life of a parrot and how to identify ensnaring, trapping environments and how to avoid it. And the best way is to know, to have that clarity. Therefore, they would teach in sutra format almost, that when you are flying across the forest, if you see a sudden unusual clearing and that clearing has grains in it, understand that it is a trap. Do not stop your flight. Do not get that down. Do not start eating those grains, because you might not know that it has been put, the snare has been put by the hunter, and the hunter will kill you. Or you will be bound. You will be an entertainment in a cage for somebody. We also are like that. That one after the other, we keep jumping into this entrapped situations and be bound by every single detail. Now, this binding, do not visualize it as, hands and legs being bound by some shackles. It is more like in the Gulliver Travels, when the ship capsizes and he finds himself on an island, and when he wakes up, when he opens his eyes, he tries to move, but he is not able to move. He sees these tiny little Lilliputians running around. Now the Lilliputians have their own rope or thread with which they have bound this fellow, Gulliver. But how many have they used? Several millions of it, going all across from head to toe, that he is not able to move, though the thread that has been used to bind him is a very thin one, a very easy one to break. But with millions going across, we are like cocooned in our own sense of attachment, from the Karana Sharira to Sukshma Sharira to the Sthula Sharira. Now, once such an attached individual leaves this body, craving for that fulfillment, goes through Swarga, Naraka, and then comes back to the same pathetic condition again in the next life. Exactly the same crossroads where we have left in this life, we continue to start from there on. The forms that which we may have been interacting in this life may be different, but the situation for this particular jiva continues to remain the same. There is no other way, there is no other choice. So therefore, everybody practically is in this particular situation. It is nothing new to each one of us, is in the same condition. So to a message to all of us, the 47th and 48th shloka. Tasmanna karya santrasaha na karpanyam na sambramaha buddhva jivagatim dhiraha mukta sangascharediha. Now, what is the entrapment? The entrapment is actually nothing but my own attachments and expectations that I have created around for myself. The Prakriti is not responsible for where I am. Who has created that particular beautiful situation that which we are in right now? Now, how beautiful it is it depends on how you have created it yourself. What guides that? My own set of Sangha, attachment. Whether you are a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, whether you are Stri, Purusha, whether you are Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi, wherever you are placed, whichever crossroads of interaction that you are placed, I am what I am because of my attachments alone. Therefore, Mukta Sangaha Charediha. The only solution, the only way out is that which, like a monkey, we are holding on. Be ready to detach from. If I am running around to hold on to something, someone, somewhere, someplace, some experience again and again, that which I am running after is anatma vastu. Anatma vastu will be the very block of my very growth. Therefore, that has to be dropped. That attachment to everything around has to be dropped, including swadeha. This tadatmyata has to be dropped. Mukta sangaha chared iha. In this world, survive and function with complete detached disposition. That is the only way for dhiraha, mumukshu purushaha, dhiraha iti. Even Bhagavan uses this word dhira so many times. Dhira or dhairya does not mean courageous. Courage is an expression, is a byproduct. Dhiraha means endowed with patience. Why do we need to have patience? Because all our frustrations, whatever the frustrations be, that which we blame our environment so easily, the frustration is only because of my own sense of lack of clarity, which keeps me bound to my own attachments, and I am not ready to understand this to free my own self. Samyak darshanaya buddhya yoga vairagya yuktaya maya virachite loke charenyasya kalevaram. Now, when we go outside, we wear shoes, right? Padaraksha. Why do we wear shoes? So that the outside, whatever is non-conducive, doesn't prick into our feet. Sometimes, if it is a rusted piece, it can even lead to tetanus, as quite a dreadful situation to be in. I cannot go around changing the world around. I mean, another method instead of padaraksha could be that you have a machine and a tool where it pounds everything in front of you, a feet ahead of you, and then wipes and brooms and cleans everything, and then you can put your next foot. Right? Maybe even cushion it with some nice soft grass everywhere that you go. That is quite an elaborate foolishness. Instead, what do? We wear shoes. Similarly, the moment I wake up and step into the world, the protective layer that one should wear is the identity of being a bhakta of Bhagavan, and that everything that I am interacting with is a swarupa of Bhagavan. Everything and everyone is a swarupa of Bhagavan, and whatever I am doing as an interaction is in the seva of that Bhagavan in that form in front of me. Without resistance, without any ambiguity in that understanding. Now, with that mindset, Maya virachite loke, in this Maya mayamidam jagat sarvam, charenyasya kalevaram, you go with this sense of vairagya, and nothing will impact, bind, or weigh you down. But if this attitude is not there, BLNL. Better luck next life, if not now. if not in this life. With that, we come to the end of this particular chapter, and I am not intending to start the next chapter. Therefore, we can conclude here. Let me just look. We can conclude here, and we can meet next week, same time, for the Bhagavat Satsang. Sushma ji is not there, so therefore I am not asking anybody to chant. We'll conclude it right here. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamas Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shant Shant Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Take care, everyone. One request is next month end, 28th July to August 3rd, we are having Mahasamadhi camp. And since it is going to be an online camp version, all of the programs, even if those that are being conducted in Chitrakoot, will be live. But if you are traveling, you can still register because everything is going to be online streamed anyways. But if you are in Dallas, please register and you can come in to watch and be in the presence of Pujya Swami Swarupananji and bask in the amazing Ramayana Katha. The entire Ramayana Katha our Swamiji will cover, and many of you are volunteers, so you know that we have been putting that effort to make this grand experience for everyone. So please join in, please register, mark the dates, and spread the word.